Society of St. Pius X, British Columbia, nothing new under the sun. When we injure others, what else do we do but scatter dust into the air, which blinds our eyes, so that we see less of the truth, the more evil we speak about others. St. Gregory. Having been a priest of the Society of St. Pius X for now 30 years, I am beginning to think that nothing ever really changes, except the players on the stage of life. The Catholic Church over and over again must give the same answers to questions like, didn't the mother of Jesus have other children? So too, we in the Society of St. Pius X must reply over and over again to the same objections. Polish language bulletins of the Vancouver Archdiocese have recently revived a few of them. So here we go again. Number 1. Aren't you guys excommunicated? About 35 years ago, with another seminarian, I was visiting the excavations under St. Peter's Basilica in the Vatican, and there we came across an American priest in lay clothes. "What order are you in?" he queried. We replied, "The Society of St. Pius X. He then interjected, "Aren't you guys excommunicated?" Indeed, that was the belief at the time, without foundation, of course, but always a good slur to cast on us. We answered, "No, we have never been excommunicated, nor as faithful Catholics have we done anything to merit excommunication. Our congregation has been unjustly dealt with by Rome." To see that all of this is true, one can still read the Apologia for Marcel Lefebvre, written at that very time. Here follow some other common objections to the Society of St. Pius X we heard back then and hear now. "But you don't believe in the Pope. You can't call yourselves Catholics." Not only do we believe in the Pope, we accept his authority and we consider him infallible under the conditions laid down by the First Vatican Council. We also believe in the office of the papacy and the long line of popes from St. Peter to Pope Francis. We believe that the Church is not a changing entity in constant evolution, but a mystical body spanning all ages. So we are indeed Catholics, united with the one universal Church around the world and throughout the ages, in its unchanging tradition. As Catholic teaching cannot change, if one pope contradicts another, we follow those popes most faithful to Catholic tradition, and warn of the novelties of those who have turned against sacred tradition. 3. But don't you guys reject Vatican II? Those teachings of Vatican II which agree with the Catholic faith of all time, we accept, as Archbishop Marcel Lefebvre did. New teachings of Vatican II opposed to Catholic tradition and in no way dogmatically binding, we find ourselves obliged, along with many serious Catholic thinkers, to reject outright. Vatican II is not a super dogma which all Catholics must believe. Anyone who tells you that is lying to you. 4. Haven't your bishops been excommunicated for creating a new church in 1988? Archbishop Lefebvre and the bishops he consecrated for the Society had no intention to create a new church. They were not the schismatics they were presumed to be by church authorities in 1988. If their consecration was made contrary to the letter of Canon 1382 of the 1983 Code of Canon Law, it can be proven through jurisprudence that no excommunication was incurred, either by Archbishop Lefebvre or by the bishops he consecrated. To be at least fair to the Society of St. Pius X on this matter, one may consult the book, The Case of Archbishop Lefebvre, Trial by Canon Law, by Charles P. Nemeth, M.S., J.D., L.L.M. Number 5. But nevertheless, by the schismatic nature of your group, you and all the faithful who follow you are all excommunicated and automatically outside the Church by Canon 1384, paragraph 1. No, I am very sorry, that is simply a lie. It is true that all schismatics are automatically excommunicated by the noted canon. However, today in 2017, not all bishops and cardinals consider the Society of St. Pius X and its members to be schismatic, and therefore excommunicated. Otherwise, it wouldn't make sense that Pope Benedict XVI should have bothered to lift, in 2009, any possible excommunication incurred by society bishops at their consecration. If they were to remain nonetheless still excommunicated for their schism. No doubt some in the ranks of the episcopate and clergy hold on to this false belief of schism, rejected clearly by Pope Benedict. Are these bishops and priests themselves going against the papacy? One should be very careful before affirming the existence of a schism. Schism means that one has totally broken from the Pope and bishops and no longer recognizes their authority in the Church. Usually such bodies create a new church of their own, often under a new anti-pope, such as in the Great Schism of the Occident. This is not the case of the Society of St. Pius X, which simply opposes certain modernist teachings and tendencies contrary to sacred tradition, the sacred tradition of the Church. In fact, to break with tradition and past Church authorities in the Church would also constitute a schism. The famous theologian Francisco Suarez, 1548 to 1614, remarks that even the Pope himself could become a schismatic if he rejected all preceding tradition, thus breaking himself off from the Church of all time. But wait a minute, society priests are suspended and their confessions are invalid. Such was written in the Polish bulletins that we spoke of earlier in the beginning of this article. This is another gigantic lie. In his apostolic letter, Misericordia et Misera, of the 20th of November 2016, Pope Francis assured those faithful, notice he does not say those excommunicates, who attend churches of the Society of St. Pius X, that the priest there will have the faculty to hear valid confessions. Here is the quote of Pope Francis taken from the Vatican translation, paragraph 12 of the document Misericordia et Misera. Quote, "For the Jubilee year I had also granted that those faithful who for various reasons attend churches officiated by the priests of the priestly fraternity of St. Pius X can validly and licitly receive sacramental absolution of their sins. For the pastoral benefit of these faithful, and trusting in the goodwill of their priests to strive with God's help for the recovery of full communion in the Catholic Church, I have personally decided to extend this faculty beyond the Jubilee year until further provisions are made, lest anyone ever be deprived of the sacramental sign of reconciliation through the Church's pardon." End of quote. So, all confessions heard by priests of the Society of St. Pius X are, in fact, valid and licit too, based on the authority of the reigning sovereign pontiff. Previous to this decree, the Society and priests associated with it have proven their confessions to be valid with regard to canon law. All of these can form a serious argument proving that the confessions are valid, or were valid back then, without the approval even of any pontiff. A more in-depth study on this subject can be presented upon a request to anyone requiring it. That which is invalid is the suspension of priests of the Society of St. Pius X. To be valid, a suspension requires that a grave sin be committed. These priests and bishops have always acted to defend Catholic tradition and truth. If sometimes they had to obey God rather than men, they had a precedent in the Apostles, Acts 5:29. Still, if society priests are suspended, that is the problem of the priests, not of the faithful. All Catholics may confess to these priests and fulfill their Sunday obligation by attending their Masses, as Canon 1248, paragraph 1 of the 1983 Code states. One can fulfill one's Sunday obligation by attending a Catholic Mass, Catholic rite of Mass. Pope Francis and other statements of Rome have verified these affirmations concerning confessions and the attendance at Mass. Finally, a note on the sin of slander, because the Society is often slandered. A person's good name is his most precious, valuable possession. The Scriptures say a good name is to be chosen rather than great riches. Proverbs 22:1. Every man has a right to his good name. This right also belongs to every group, a family, a religious order, a business firm, a social organization, a city, or a nation. The sin of slander is committed when by lying one injures the good name of another. Slander is a sin against justice, charity, and truth, because it violates not only the honor due to another, but also the honor he has rightly earned by his moral character and conduct. Slander is a verdict of guilty pronounced in the absence of the accused, with closed doors, without defense or appeal by a disinterested and unprejudiced judge. The one who commits slander inflicts a wrong by slandering the absent. He who gives credit to the slander before he has investigated the truth is equally implicated. To exaggerate the faults of another, or to give out as certain what is uncertain or doubtful, is related to slander. The obligation to undo the harm caused by slander does not go away. Justice must be reestablished. Therefore, the good reputation slandered must be restored. Put away all malice, all guile, and insincerity, and envy, and all slander. 1 Peter